Shadow people have mysterious origins. Many different people have tried to hypothesize exactly what they are and where they come from. Are they shades from the underworld like in Greek mythology? Could they be a fourth dimensional being that we just can't see? Or are they dark ghosts and demons? Well, we may not be fully exploring the why today, but I will be telling you some true stories of what some people have experienced. Hi Most Amazing Fam, my name is Abby, and today we have top 10 scary shadow people seen in real life. These stories are some that people have shared, so please respect what they believe to have seen. Also, leave any advice you have for anyone else that has encounters like these in the comments below, so you can all help each other out if you have any creepy shadow people encounters yourself. And now, without any other dilly-dallying, let's begin. At number 10, we have Monster in the House. So one house had beings that came along with it. Each member of a family that lived there for under a year had their own haunting experience, so it was a lot of experiences in a row. The first to have an experience was the daughter, who was 3 at the time. She would wake up in the middle of the night absolutely terrified, scared of the monster in her room. It was brushed off by her parents as just something that she saw, and it did eventually stop. But after it had stopped, her dad started waking up in the middle of the night himself. He had this feeling that something was staring at him. In the corner of the room, he saw a shadowy black and gray apparition that gave him the chills. This kept happening a few times a week for months. His fiancée even said that she saw a faceless child looking at her beside the bed, and they moved out after the frequency of all these spottings got even worse. Once they moved out, they slept normally ever since. At number 9, we have screaming. A Redditor named Blackwater Project talks about an experience their daughter had. From the age of 3 to the age of 8, their daughter talked about people with no faces and figures of shadows. The daughter would wake them up in the middle of the night and say there was a man or figure standing in their closet. One of the most frightening stories was when their daughter asked if they heard the screams. She was asking if they heard the screams of a figure that stood in her doorway and screamed at her, and then flew to her parents' room and screamed at them. She sobbed uncontrollably to her parents because she didn't understand why they didn't wake up from the screams. The parent who posted this says the encounters did stop, and now their kid is 11. But now their daughter just refuses to talk about her past experiences. Number 8. Dozens. So Pinion_gear on Reddit was just napping before they had their own encounter. They had just had some teeth pulled and were on bed rest. When they slowly woke up, they heard indistinct whispering. They described it as if some people were talking to each other in the next room, but they couldn't make out what they were saying. But what was making the noise wasn't in the next room. They were all right there. So the Redditor opened their eyes to see dozens of tall, thin, shadowy figures in the room. The type that looked humanoid, but also the type that you couldn't focus on even if you looked directly at them. These shadowy figures moved about the room, not really minding the sleepy person in the room with them. It personally seems to me like the person who got their teeth pulled stumbled upon a ghost party, or the ghost party stumbled upon them, because I just wonder if spirits target people whose stories are less likely to be believed. Because just stay with me here. If I was a spirit trying to keep the spirit world low-key, I would only come to this plane of existence when I could get away with it. And so throwing a cocktail party in a room with a guy taking a nap just seems hilarious, because just like, don't mind Dave, he's the decor. I've decided on a 21st century man with less teeth as the piece for our little cocktail party. I'm just guessing that's what the spirits are saying. Just imagine. Just like, hello. We're all the ghosts, but look, it's a man. He doesn't even see us. Dave. He has no teeth. Great. Number 7. A dream message. So another person shared their own story anonymously with the Occult Museum. They said they were having a vivid dream where someone was whispering something in their ear. And as with many dreams, they don't remember the exacts, but they were whispering secrets. And then when they woke up from the dream, they looked across the room and saw it. A shadow darker than the darkness of the room that turned and looked at them. They called out to it in confusion and it ran straight into a wall. When it reached the wall, it was like a splash of darkness dissipating into smoke. Now they say they absolutely believe it was what was whispering in their ear before they woke up, and they caught it before it left. I wonder if they can like reach into your minds and like see what's going on. It's like, oh, you're in a dream? You're having a good time? Let me just whisper. Rude. But let's go on to number 6, more than one type. So a Reddit user named Dim saw 2 different shadowy figures at 2 different times. One was more benign and the other was malicious. So when Dim was a kid, the demonic one, the malicious one, haunted their bedroom. It looked like thick smoke and left a bad stench, they said. It also left all the signs of a haunting. Cold air, a sense of fright, religious objects falling down, scratches on the ceiling, and even a face appeared. So the non-hostile ghost was different. It was more translucent, more like a shadow, and they saw it looming over their mother as she slept. Once it noticed them, it divided itself into 3 different beings and ran straight through them one at a time. So not all of these shadow people are scary, but many are. I don't want them to mess with me, I'm sorry. Number 5, adopting a disguise. One person was staying at their mom's house on a hometown visit and were lying in bed about to go to sleep. That's when they felt and heard a presence in their room. They thought it was their brother just trying to get something, so they turned to look at him, but it wasn't him. It was a tall, shadowy figure darker than the shadows of the room. As they kept asking what the figure wanted, it moved closer and closer to them. They felt a fear and weight on them from the looming presence, so they shouted at it to leave, but it didn't go until they used their phone light to light up the room. After that, they prayed over a rosary and eagle feather until they fell asleep. They say it returns as a boy of maybe 7 or 8 with sad eyes that peeks around corners at them, but they say this visual of a boy is all a facade, hiding the darker shadow person. Using a nicer figure to try to lead to some trust, but it's really hiding something much more sinister. Let's move on to number 4, trespassing. So when a woman named Courtney was about 10 or 11, she explored an abandoned house. It was daytime and she was exploring a couple of the rooms, but there wasn't really much there to see. But when she turned into a hallway, at the other end of the hallway was a shadow person. It was looking at her, but it had no eyes. They kind of stared at each other for some time and she thought it wasn't real, just a figment of her imagination. But then it slowly started walking towards her. She turned to leave, and from the corner of her eye, it seemed like the being had traveled 7 meters in a split second. She kept running out of the house and looked back to see if it had followed, but the shadow person had stopped at the door. She said it was as if it was unable to leave the house, and then it turned back around and returned to where it was before. With all that, I think it was just saying, what are you doing in my house? But couldn't really communicate because it was a shadow person, and then chased him out. Defend your territory, man, you know? At number 3, caught on camera. At the St. Augustine Lighthouse, a camera captured a shadowy figure. At first, the shadow just looks like someone casting a shadow off camera, but if that was the case, the shadow would have had a different depth of field when it passed the room on the left. In addition, the window in the other room casts a brighter light than this side, and you can see the light coming through the shadow. Plus, the shadow just doesn't go across the whole screen or video. It stops, enters the room, and you can see the wall. It's different. So people around the comments of the video argued whether or not it's real or edited in post-production, which is possible really, so please let me know what you think about it. Number 2, red eyes. K. Willstonia on Reddit said he had seen his fair share of shadow people. He also disclaims that he has had sleep paralysis on and off, so this could be an explanation for one of his creepy encounters. So one day he slept in until around 9 AM, which isn't really sleeping in for me, but anyways, his room was pretty well lit when this happened. He woke up and his computer screen was turned towards the bed and the monitor was off. But then on the screen a man appeared and said, "Don't look into his eyes." So then, once he heard that, he noticed a huge hulking shadow appear out of his open closet door. He says it was about 6 feet tall with a huge torso and long arms with pointed fingers at the ends. The shadow being itself was transparent except for the eyes that were red and opaque. With the figure staring at him, he couldn't move and eventually just shut his eyes, waking up hours later. He felt lethargic afterwards, but blamed it on sleeping in too much. But it could have been the shadow figure. Just saying. But lastly, let's move on to number 1, the being on the road. So this last one comes from ItchyZSoul7 on Reddit. He was riding his bike home from work through a residential neighborhood. While riding, he saw a form standing in the middle of the road. It kept backing up as he moved forward until he passed a stoplight, and at that point it stopped in the middle of the road right in his path. Then he was able to see it. Its body was made of shadows, but it had a full form. It had deep scarlet eyes, and it raised its head as he kept approaching and opened its mouth, and he could see rows and rows of jagged teeth, but there were no other identifying features. He was able to get away after he had a bit of a fall and then got back up, but now the figure haunts him. He sees it once or twice a week and it follows him around to different cities to work, but no one else sees it. He's currently fielding answers to see if he can figure out what exactly this is, so if you want to check it out, it'll be linked in our sources below. And those are the top 10 stories I have for you today. Let me know what you think down below, and while you're down there, make sure to give us a like, subscribe, and hit that bell for notifications of when we post videos. Also, please be sure to let me know if anything like this ever happens to you, because that way, everyone telling their stories, hopefully we can find some others with like experiences, see what is up. But that is all. Make sure to like us on Facebook and Instagram, and until next time, have a good one. Once they moved out, they slept. Once they moved out, they snapped. Okay. Other than that, I have something else written, but I forget. you.